Have you heard of PLO, or product listing optimization? In crowded e-commerce marketplaces, visibility is key. So as a seller, you should always be looking for ways to differentiate your products and gain an edge over your competition. And PLO is a fantastic way to do just that. In short, product listing optimization is the process of optimizing or enhancing the different elements of a product listing for a particular sales platform. Don't worry, I'll break this down further in a second, but I do want to emphasize that it's fundamental for e-commerce because even the best product in the world won't sell as well as it should if potential customers can't find it or if the product listing doesn't engage and pull them in. I'm Manuela with Plitix, and today we're going to look at product listing optimization from start to finish. We'll go over everything from what product listings are and why optimizing them is important, to the concepts of search and discovery, and of course, PLO best practices to ultimately increase your bottom line. Let's start by defining product listings. Put simply, a product listing is a page on a channel where people can see or buy your products. This can be a web store, a marketplace, price comparison sites, you name it. Your product listings should have all of the information necessary for customers to decide whether or not they want to make a purchase. You should have the product's title, description, price, images, specifications, and so on. And naturally, you want to make sure that this information is presented in a way that's most likely going to convince potential buyers to buy your product. Which brings us to the topic of what product listing optimization actually is. When we talk about PLO, we're talking about the process of refining the different aspects of your product listing for a particular sales platform in order to boost visibility, click-through rates, conversion rates, and overall sales performance on each particular channel that your product is listed on. There are many elements to consider. For example, the use of relevant keywords in the product title, detailed and accurate product descriptions, high quality images, competitive pricing, and of course, positive customer reviews. This process takes into account how to optimize listings in different ways for different channels, since each platform has its own algorithm for deciding how and when your products are shown to customers. But more on that later. Product listing optimization is crucial for e-commerce because, like I mentioned earlier, no matter how fantastic your product is in real life, customers are far less likely to buy it if it's presented poorly online, and even less so if they can't even find it to begin with. When applied effectively, PLO prevents these problems from happening by helping your product rank higher in search results on e-commerce platforms, which in turn increases its visibility to potential customers. That then results in higher click-through and conversion rates, ultimately leading to increased sales and profitability. Imagine you're at a super busy marketplace and there are tons of sellers trying to get people's attention. First thing first, PLO means making sure that your stand is in the right place. After all, if you're selling fruit, your customers aren't going to be looking for you in the fish section. Then, in order to stand out from your fellow fruit sellers once you're there, you're going to want an eye-catching sign or some kind of catchy slogan to make people stop and take a closer look at what you're selling. And that will then convince them to make a purchase. Using the right keywords on your signs can make a huge difference here. I mean, think about it. Would you rather have fresh, organic, locally harvested Granny Smith apples, or just apples? Speaking of organic, PLO is especially important for organic ranking, as in moving up the list of search results without having to pay for the privilege. In e-commerce, it's all too easy to think, hey, I'll just put some money behind ad spend to get my product seen. There are two downsides to this. The first one is that you're competing for that ad space, which can mean a lot of money. Sure, large companies and brands might have a lot of capital to spend on this, but that's not the case for everybody. The second downside of ads is that when you look at the numbers, you'll see that buyers are catching on to this and they aren't loving it. You might remember this from another video of ours, but on average, only 2.69% of buyers are willing to click on a paid result at the top of the page, which is practically nothing compared to the nearly 40% of consumers who will only ever click on that first organic result. This means that drilling down on PLO in order to rank organically can significantly boost your product's performance. What's more, since companies can't pay to rank organically, this levels the playing field and fosters brand diversity, which basically means that all brands, big or small, have a chance to shine and show off their products. That means customers benefit too, since they get more options and variety when they're shopping online. It's a win-win. When it comes to PLO and getting your product listings in front of potential buyers, there are two key concepts to keep in mind: search and discovery. These are the two different ways that customers are going to find your product listing, and there are different things that you can do to help with each. Search is what happens when a customer knows exactly what product they're looking for. For example, let's say they want a brown 3-seater leather couch. If you're selling these online, you need to make sure that your products all have the right keywords and attributes associated with them, so that they show up when the customer searches for any combination of brown, 3-seater, and leather with couch or sofa. It can also help to include an identifying number such as a UPC, a GTIN, or in the case of books, an ISBN, as that way marketplaces will be able to recognize your listing as the exact specific product that people are searching for. In fact, some channels like Google Marketplace insist that you include this information. Discovery, on the other hand, is what happens when a customer doesn't really know what they want. They just have a rough idea of the kind of thing that they're looking for. Maybe in this case, they just know that they want a sofa and that's it. These shoppers are called browsers, and one of the key ways that you can direct them towards your product is through what we call product taxonomy, as in making sure that your products are in the right category or categories. For our snazzy sofa, this would mean making sure that it appears when they click on sofa, then filter by number of seats, material, color, and so on. Both search and discovery are vital for turning potential customers into actual customers. So you need to make sure that your products are optimized for both. On a related note, you also want to make sure that your products are optimized effectively for every channel that you sell on, whether it's your own web store, a mobile app, a third-party marketplace, or a price comparison site. Luckily, the fundamental strategies of PLO are pretty universally applicable, but they do need to be tweaked a bit according to which specific channel you're targeting. And the clearest difference in how they're applied can be seen when you compare optimization for your own online store versus third-party platforms. In the case of your online store, the main goal here is to boost your visibility on search engines like Google or Bing and ensure that your page is one of the top, if not the top result, that appears in a browser's search results. When traffic then gets directed from these search engines to your site, the next key step is to transform these casual browsers into actual buyers. To achieve this, your product page needs to be persuasive and compelling. On the other side of things, when we consider third-party platforms, each one normally has its own set of rules and guidelines for how to structure your product listings. To rank higher and boost your sales on these channels, you have to tailor your content to adhere to their specific algorithms or guidelines. Examples of channels like this would be Amazon, Google Shopping, and various other marketplaces, all of which require specialized content adjustments for each algorithm and often put more constraints on the way that you present your content. Still, applying these principles effectively can have a massive impact on your sales. Optimizing product listings for Amazon and Google Shopping according to their specific criteria has been shown to increase click-through rates by 15% and 28% respectively compared to unoptimized listings. So to sum up the 2 points here, for your online store, focus on SEO and conversion optimization. And for third-party platforms, adjust your strategy each time to align with that specific channel's algorithm in order to rank higher. All right, so now that you've got an idea about why you should optimize your listing, let's talk about which parts you should focus on. Hopefully you remember the list of different elements that we mentioned earlier. Let's use that as a place to start and get into these in more detail. Like I said before, you need to adapt your titles based on where you're selling and decide whether or not to include certain details. In the past, a lot of retailers engaged in keyword stuffing, where they tended to have product titles that looked like this. Don't do that. Not only does it look super off-putting for your customers, giving them the impression that you're trying to trick them somehow, but it's also not as beneficial in terms of the ranking algorithm as it used to be. This varies depending on where you're selling, but these days, the algorithm that decides when and where your listing appears in search results is much more adept at taking into account the rest of your listing as well. No need to try and put all the possible information you can think of in the title. Make your title sound natural and include the key information for wherever you're selling. Think brand, model, specifications, or 1 or 2 key features and leave it at that. Of course, like with all PLO principles, this varies a bit depending on where you're selling. For example, if you're optimizing your listing for your own web store, where you only sell your brand of products, then maybe it's not necessary to include the brand name at the beginning of every title. I mean, after all, people browsing your brand on your web store have probably already figured that part out for themselves. On the other hand, if you're working on your listing or listings for a third-party marketplace, then yes, absolutely include your brand name in a prominent position so your loyal customers can spot you easily and so that new customers know whose listing it is that's impressed them so much. Some marketplaces will take this idea one step further by having particular requirements or recommendations about what your listing's title has to include and in what order. Amazon's A10 algorithm, for example, gives preference to titles that include the brand name, a clear description of what the product does, a specific material or ingredient, the color and size, and the quantity when applicable. However, you may not want to include all of this information in the title on other marketplaces, since their algorithms might prefer simpler, shorter titles that can be applied to all possible variants of a product, regardless of things like color, size, or quantity. With product descriptions, on the other hand, it's pretty much always possible to include more keywords without it coming across as suspicious or upsetting the algorithm. You should include as much information as you can, incorporating variants of the main keyword you want to rank for when possible, while keeping the content natural, engaging, and interesting for your potential customers. As ever, different marketplaces have different requirements and formats, so you need to adapt your descriptions for everywhere that you sell. There are different character limits for different sections on different channels, for example, or things like Amazon asking for a list of key features in bullet point form, in addition to a traditional long-form product description, which not all other channels do. For more information about SEO for Amazon in particular, by the way, check out the video that I'm linking here. It's got a lot more details about SEO and boosting your Amazon rankings. Okay, photos and videos. Firstly, I really can't stress the importance of multimedia when you're selling online. I mean, think about it. With online retail, this is the only way that your customers can see what they're buying, so of course it's important. Shoppers are getting increasingly demanding with their photos and video needs when shopping online, so it's fundamental to have high quality examples of both for everything that you sell. Like we discussed before, that means making sure that your images and videos are appearing in the right format for each of your different sales channels, and perhaps even more crucial is having the clearest, most visually appealing content to begin with. There are different best practices for different marketplaces and channels, naturally, but a good rule of thumb is to have at least 6 high-resolution images of your product with a white background and showing a variety of angles. And then a few different videos showing the product in use in different settings. Remember what we discussed about search and discovery earlier? As in those 2 ways that customers end up finding your product? It's crucial to make sure that your products show up in specific searches and when customers are browsing categories of products as well. That's why relevant keywords throughout your listings are so beneficial, and depending on the marketplace, may actually have their own separate section. On top of that, as we mentioned, it's also important to make sure that all of your products are categorized correctly and have all of the relevant attributes or characteristics completed accurately as well. Anyone who's ever sold or even bought something online has realized the value of reviews and ratings in product listings. In addition to providing social proof, as in third-party verification of the value of a product, ratings are also a vital part of how marketplaces order products in search results, and detailed, honest reviews from other consumers can be a highly convincing factor for someone considering buying your product. You should make sure you have a selection of reviews featured everywhere that you sell, and you should encourage your customers to share their opinions and ratings of your products wherever possible. Finally, we come to prices. Choosing the right price for your product is obviously a complicated process with countless economic factors to consider. But in terms of PLO, one of your main considerations should be how your price compares to your competitors. Too high, and obviously most people would be scared off, but too low, and people might think that your product is lower quality than the others, which I'm sure is not the case. You might also want to consider that many people choose to order their search results by prices from low to high, which means if you have thousands of competitors on a particular marketplace who all have prices ending in 99, you could opt to reduce your price to something ending in 89, for example. That way you'll appear before the rest of the crowd in the results. Again though, much like with keyword stuffing and titles, this pricing strategy can come across as underhanded if your customers pick up on it. So if you do go down this path, then I'd recommend making sure that every other part of your listing is as optimized as possible in order to make it clear to potential customers that you're a trustworthy option. Now I know what you're thinking. Keeping track of all these different versions of your data and media for use on the different platforms that you're selling on is going to be a nightmare, with hundreds of different versions of the same spreadsheet that all need updating every time you update prices or anything else changes within your organization. Well, firstly, don't panic. As with so much of modern life, there's technology here to help. And in particular, a type of software called PIM, or Product Information Management. Software like this makes PLO a breeze, since it helps you get all of your different data for all of your channels in one place, keep everything up to date, easily distribute it out to different channels, and a whole bunch more besides. Don't worry, we're not gonna go into everything that a good PIM tool can do for you and your PLO needs now, but if you'd like more information, be sure to check out our other videos, or you can book a free demo through the link in the description. So there you have it. Follow this advice and you'll be sure to see your product listings climbing the ranks in no time. Let us know your thoughts and questions in the comments. And for more information on product listing optimization and best practices, you can download our free ebook right here. Thanks for watching and see you next time. So there you have
Just finish the
So there you have it.